Hey, good morning and welcome back to Fantasy Football Code Red on Enravio.com.
Order the Code Red!
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Hey, good morning, everybody. We're back with Fantasy Football Code Red on Enravio.com. Good morning, Commander.
How you doing, Mike?
How you doing, my brother?
We got week 8 already.
Week 8.
Halfway down in the
Almost
NFL
halfway
schedule.
down.
I don't know where the time goes. I really don't, but it does.
What's up there, brother?
Having some fun, Admiral.
Porterhouse.
Commander Admiral. Good to be back after missing a week. Ready to roll?
I'd like to have you back.
All right. Let's jump right into a recap of Week 7 action in the NFL. Guys, this was the
Week of the
where
injury, yeah.
The injury bug bit hard, man. Doug Martin going to be out probably 2 months.
Basically the season.
Basically the season.
Basically your fantasy season anyway.
Well, they're talking about the possibility of him being back Week 10 if he is able to rehab the injury, but I don't see that happening. I think he's done.
I think that if you get him before week 15, you'll be pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, week 10 is not going to happen.
Yeah.
There's no way.
And that's a big hit. That's a big hit for the Bucs. That's a big hit for any fantasy owners.
He was a top 5 pick in everybody's drafts.
Yeah.
Somebody just lost somebody in the top half of the first round.
Although he was having a bad season.
He was.
So
No, he wasn't having a
he
great
wasn't
season.
killing your team. He's not killing your team because he didn't do anything for you anyway.
Right.
The
but,
talent on that team, the fact that they're 0-7 is pathetic.
Yeah, that's
Gianno's
really
going to
is.
have to go.
really
Someone's going to take over next year that's pretty good,
Yeah.
and these guys are all going to have great fantasy years. Jackson's been good despite that,
Lately,
but nobody
yeah,
else.
since Glennon came into the picture,
Yeah.
he's been really good.
So if you're looking for a replacement for Martin, Mike James is his guy, I guess, right?
Yeah, he's solid. He's got some speed. He's shifty, but he's not going to, they might not use him at goal line. We don't know yet about that.
Right.
But you got to figure he's going to get the majority of the carries, so he's a good pickup.
And the thing about Tampa right now, I mean, they fall behind so quickly and so early in games that Glennon's throwing the ball 50, 55 times a night.
Yeah.
And he's not that good either.
No.
So it's an interesting team to watch right now. Garbage points are the best way to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
All right. Reggie Wayne in what could be a career-ending injury. Placed on the IR, going to miss the rest of the season, torn ACL in last Sunday's game against Denver.
Well, say hello to Darius Hayward-Bay as a guy that's going to have to be a major contributor now.
And the weird thing was he was just kind of going down to get the ball, just got his leg caught. It wasn't like an injury where he was cutting or anything, and then he's out. for the
Wasn't
year.
touched, nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
That's what happens when you're 38.
I guess, yeah.
Jay Cutler going to miss about 4 weeks with a groin injury.
McCown looked more efficient than Cutler has all season.
He's actually had a pretty good year.
It was the
Cutler.
Redskins. It was the Redskins D, which, I mean, I think the Commander could throw for 150 in a touch. But be that as it may, McCown actually had a pretty good game coming in cold. Listen, Jay Cutler's a good quarterback. He's going to make more mistakes than McCown is. I mean, but
Yeah, he is. But
be
he was
that
having
as
a
it
good
may.
year, Cutler,
Oh, no,
overall.
No, having
It's a
great
good
year.
team. It's a
Yeah.
good team.
And if you had him last week, you basically got a 0 from him. You probably lost if you had Cutler as your
If he started for you, you were screwed.
But wait till you see my studs, and sleepers from last week. I think I'm the kiss of death.
Nothing to think about.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Sam Bradford, he is going to be out with a knee injury. He's on IR. Despite the rumors you may have heard about Brett Favre making a comeback at 44, that's
funny.
not happening.
Apparently, like over 20 concussions for Favre.
That'll do it.
And that doesn't even count the ones that were before they started recording that when he first came into the league.
It's a mystery. The guy even knows his own name. Anyway, it looks like we're going to get Kellen Clemens, which is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Kellen Clemens this week against the Seattle defense is just going to be an ugly, ugly situation.
He was the last quarterback that wasn't that good at Oregon.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be surprised if Tavon Austin ran the Wildcat the whole game. Just to do something different.
have
Fish is a guy that thinks outside the box. You never know.
Hey, listen, sit all of your Rams today, fellas. It ain't happening.
Well, if you have Zach Stacy, I guess you have to use him. If you.
I'd go
But
there.
Here's the
A
whole
lot of
thing.
bye weeks
You're going
this
up
week,
against the Hawks. You haven't played in 5 years, and now they're going to play against the Seahawks. That's not exactly an easy team to introduce yourself against. And that whole team has been a disappointment. Bradford statistically comes off good, but if you watch him play, you don't feel like he's good.
Terrible.
Last week, if you watch his stats before he got hurt, he looked like he was having a great day.
Yeah.
But if you watch them play more than 2 series, he does not impress you at all.
Not at all. And finally, Jermichael Finley. That was a serious, scary kind of injury. Neck injury, hospitalized with a spinal contusion.
Walking around this week.
Walking around this week. Says he's going to be back at some point. Not this year, of course, but that's a big blow to an already depleted Green Bay offense.
They just lose a guy every week, it seems.
do.
And they still win. There's Rodgers.
They do.
They got the
But
best quarterback in the
the
league.
guy that you brought up is going to benefit by Boykin.
Yeah.
Because with Cobb out, with Jones being
Banged up.
Finley
gone.
out.
We mentioned a few guys last week that had great games. Boykins, and we said Jordan Reed. You were really high
Yes.
on Jordan Reed
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And we talked up those guys, and they both had great games.
Yeah.
Another guy to watch for in the passing game is if Franklin.
Yeah.
If they decide to dump it off the backs, got a little bit better hands than Lacey.
Interesting.
Could be
question,
interesting to
though.
see.
Yeah, interesting question because Starks is back as well. So now you've got Lacey, Franklin, and Starks. I'm not sure how they're going to use them. I mean, Lacey's going to be the
Lacey's the bell cow right
yeah,
now.
he's the primary guy, but
And he's actually looked better than I thought he would be.
yeah,
The Packers actually had to run more because of the injuries on the line and the receivers, and he's actually played well. I was wrong about him being, a mediocre player. He's actually
Yeah.
played well.
And last week could be like the resurgence of Rodgers and the fact that he had been trouble getting them in the end zone the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's
a lot of
having
field
a,
goals. Last week he got him in. He got 3 touchdowns last week, and it could be like the start of him just running amok.
Yeah.
Like everybody's waits for, those special quarterbacks. When
Right.
Rodgers and Brady were the 2 guys that everybody
Yeah.
drafted that
He has to step
haven't
up.
done a thing,
he has to step up. Now.
and now Rodgers
Brady
is
hasn't
winning.
stepped up,
Yeah.
and Rodgers has.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
All right, guys, you got to pay attention this week. Big bye week: Ravens, Bears, Texans, Colts, Chargers, and Titans out today.
This is where you really feel it these next 2 weeks with 6
Yeah.
teams off.
Yeah, make sure you check your lineups. Make sure you've got nobody active that's on a bye. Pay attention later. We'll try to give you some ideas on who to use on the bye week with some waiver pickups. Top performers from last week: Andy Dalton.
Tearing it up.
Amazing. He was throwing bombs to, actually, he was underthrowing A.J. Green and still got an 80-yard touchdown.
This is the second week in a row we've had him as our top performer at quarterback. 24 for 34, 372 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks.
First, 5 or 6 weeks of the season, disappointment
Awful.
for Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
Looked awful. Last 2 weeks, he's looked fantastic.
Yes.
Throwing the ball to Green, it's one of those things we talk about. You got a stud receiver, throw it up.
Yeah.
Both
Drives me
games are on the
crazy.
road for some
I don't
reason.
love him this week, of course.
Well, the
but,
Jet D is going to be good. I think the Bengals will still win it, but I think I think it'll be a much more low-scoring game.
But if you're in need of a quarterback, even a backup quarterback down the stretch, I'd be picking up Dalton.
And I have Andrew Luck, so I had picked up Dalton last week just to have a backup quarterback because I
Yeah.
had Pryor and I wasn't happy with the matchup.
No,
So
I'd go Dalton.
going Dalton this
Yeah.
week.
Running back, Matt Forte, 16 carries, 91 yards, hit pay dirt 3 times.
The 150-yard run really kind of put it over the top for distance, but he also got into the end zone 3 times.
But if you look, though, 20 touches, that's not a lot,
It's not.
considering they lost their quarterback. So to me, that's a horrible job by the Bears not featuring him more.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree. Only
He should have had a
4
monster day. And
Yeah,
he had a
four
great
catches,
day.
18 yards. He had a great day only because he scored 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I
But take
mean,
the touchdowns out. It's
For
not-
whatever reason, the Bears just didn't run him with him.
and they didn't go to Bush a lot either. It wasn't like they just wanted to
Yeah.
feature McCown.
Yeah.
It was a high-scoring game. Maybe
They
there
were
was
ahead a few times, too, and they still were throwing the ball. I didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
bad defense makes you nervous, though, now. One of the top
Yeah.
4 or 5 defenses that you would pick early in the season, giving up 45. I know the Redskins are pretty, RG3 starting to play better, but
They lost a lot of guys on defense.
I
so
know the
it's
secondary is
showing
just
now.
battered.
Yeah.
Big game for the top performer at wide receiver last week. Calvin Johnson, 9 catches, 155 yards, 2 touchdowns.
The one play he made in the end zone with 3 guys around him, it was like me playing against my kids in a
Yeah,
game
it
of
really
jump
was.
ball.
It
It's
really
like
was.
nobody could jump anywhere near him.
Where they're all hanging on your shoulders.
They're
and your
all
shirt.
alone. Hey, you still just catch it. I mean, I'd never seen an NFL player do that so easily in my life.
Yeah.
That game was fun to watch. It was a fantasy
good game.
thriller.
Yeah.
And the fact, Detroit, it's a bad loss for Detroit at home overall, but Calvin Johnson was outstanding last
And I
week.
think he'll be big today too.
Well, when he practiced 3 straight days, you had to figure that he's his old self again last week, and he was.
Yeah.
The interesting thing today, you're going to see, Brandon Carr probably trying to guard him one-on-one today because that's what they've been doing with him all season.
Right.
And he just doesn't have the size. It's going to be an interesting matchup.
And we talked about the tight end situation, and we recommended that you pick up Jordan Reed last week. If you did, cha-ching, you cashed in, 9 catches, 134 yards, and a touchdown.
And the thing is, it hurts the other receivers for the Redskins now because I think this could be his go-to guy.
Yeah.
You know, it just looked like it. You know, every
No
time he was
question.
throwing the ball, you know,
He's a little
Garcon
banged
takes a
up.
little hit.
Yeah, he's a little banged up this week, Reed, but you're right. I
But
think-
Garcon's going to take a little hit now.
Oh, absolutely.
And then anybody else, I wouldn't even want Hankerson or none of those guys.
None
They're
of
not
those.
even worth keeping now.
This is like the next Chris Cooley for this team. They're going to
Yeah.
throw to him like 10 times a game,
And
minimum.
he's very athletic. He almost looks like a receiver out there, mismatch. So even today, I love him today. If he's supposed to play, but
Yeah.
even today, I love him today.
Yeah.
It's hard not to like him. It's like when you have a great tight end, you like him every week. There's never a week where you say, well, I got to bench Jason Witten.
Right.
Yeah.
And I got to bench Tony Gonzalez, and I got to bench Jimmy Graham. That doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen.
You got a stud, you do it.
All right, man crush. Peyton Manning still getting it done. 29 for 49 last week, 386 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Go Peyton.
Yeah, typical Peyton. And again, they had a chance at the end, and Hillman fumbled. And that was basically the game was over at that
Yeah.
point. And now Hillman gets deactivated today because of it. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that game looked like it was over starting the fourth quarter.
It did.
And the Broncos had every opportunity to win it. He's
really
just
did.
amazing to watch. He really is.
Yeah.
They're never out of a game when he's there.
Right. Jimmy Graham off last week.
I went with Giovanni Bernard as my stud because he's my backup man crush. He had a mediocre game. He had a couple catches, and he didn't really, maybe like 30 yards or whatever, but he's still very active. They didn't really run the ball well all together. Ellis did nothing. It was a Dalton show last week, and Bernard caught a few passes, so in a point per reception, he did fine. But
Detroit's strength's that front four. So, I mean, the linebackers aren't, but the front four is the strength. So you can
Secondary's
throw
weak.
on them all over the place.
yeah.
Jamal Charles, steady as they come every week.
Another, Jamal Charles kind of weak,
21 for
carries.
86.
Always
and
scores.
He gets a
86
touchdown every
yards,
week. Only had the
touchdown,
only had the 3
receptions.
catches last week, though. That was a little light for him.
Yeah.
And they did not look good against the Texans.
No, not at all. Texans actually hung in there more than I
bad
thought.
Texans team right now.
Yeah.
The whole thing about the Chiefs, they've looked worse at home than on the road this year. Their more impressive wins have all come away from home. They had the 1 point, the Giant game, they blew it out late.
Yeah.
They had the 1 point win against
Raider
the
game,
Cowboys.
same thing.
What?
The Raiders played well up till the fourth quarter, and then they pulled away. So.
And then the Cowboy game, same score, 17-16.
Yeah.
So
They have been more dominant
The
on the road.
defense has been good all over the place. The offense has been better on the road.
Yeah.
All right, let's get you caught up on injuries. We went through a bunch of the major new injuries. Let's get you updated on what's going on. James Starks, we mentioned earlier, is going to play today. Not sure what his.
I think Lacey's.
Impact is
It's
gonna be-
Lacey's team.
Right now, it's Lace's team. Brandon Jacobs out again. I guess the death threats will be coming.
Aiden Hillis now becomes a starter, I mean, he actually looked pretty good. But
Come on, though. I mean, if you would have told me at the in the preseason that in week 7 or week 8,
Giants.
Aiden Hillis was going to be our feature running back.
He didn't even start.
Oh,
Came in off the bench.
Yeah, they had Cox in there for
They
a while,
had
and
Cox
he did
over there.
okay. But I always had a soft spot for Peyton Hillis because I had him that year that he
Right,
broke out
right.
after left Denver.
Right.
And, I picked him up in one of my teams, so we'll see what
The
happens.
funniest thing about Peyton Hillis, he started in that 3 running back backfield with Felix Jones and Darren McFadden.
Yes.
And he could end up getting more starts than the
Or
other
be the
two.
best of the 3.
He could end up being the best of 3. He was the fullback that basically blocked.
Yeah.
And now he's a stud.
Santonio Holmes, doubtful.
He's not going to play until after the bye.
He's not going to play until after the bye. That's a good call. DeMarco Murray, questionable. I think he's going to play.
They're saying he's going to play, so we'll see what happens. But I don't know why they would risk it.
Yeah.
Randall actually looked pretty good last week,
Yeah.
and they won. It's not like they lost,
Yeah.
so I don't know why they're really rushing them back. but
No,
we'll
it
see what
didn't seem
happens.
like they won pretty convincingly. The defense is playing really well.
Yeah. The big return, the long-awaited return of Steven Jackson. He should play today.
Without a wide receiver on that team, they need him desperately.
Yeah. I don't like the matchup though.
No.
So
Tough matchup on the
if
road.
you don't have to use Jackson today, I wouldn't use him. I kind of ease him in, or I think the Rams, the
Cardinals.
Falcons may
Cardinals,
ease him in. I'm not sure how many touches he's going to get today, but
But you know what? The kid Rodgers, 2 touchdowns last week. They're not running the ball, but he's catching the ball great out of the backfield, and he's quick.
yeah. Roddy White,
Out. He's out.
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 Fred Jackson, questionable. But I think he has a better chance of playing than Spiller.
Yeah, Spiller's downgraded to doubtful, which means probably no. Jackson will play. You know, I mean, he's always
banged up.
He's always viable because he can
Yeah.
always get that touchdown and close to the goal
He's getting a
line.
lot of goal line carries this year for touchdowns, so you can't really sit him.
Yeah. Cecil Shorts, questionable.
Bad weather in London. They saying there could be second half like 70-mile-an-hour winds. Try not to
That's
play
going to be
him.
a very low-scoring, ugly game. Stay away from it, and, wherever you can.
They might be running the fumble rooski and stuff in that game. if it
One
gets
of the
that bad.
interesting things is if you need a late defensive pickup, may not be the worst thing in the world to pick up Jacksonville. You might get a fumble here or there, just a throw out. It doesn't
Lot
mean you
of
have to
onside
do it
kicks.
if you're desperate.
Miles Austin.
Has he played? I mean, I'm just
He's
joking
a total
around.
zero.
He's been a zero. He's not. He's a 3 receiver at best now.
Now I think
Williams has
he's-
taken a spot.
Williams has stepped ahead of him. Bryant's obviously the man, and followed by Witten and then Williams. Austin, in his contract year, I think he's pretty much being phased out. So forget about him. James Jones.
Probably
banged
not
up.
playing.
I would think he's not playing this
He
week.
didn't practice Thursday or Friday, I believe.
So you have to assume he's not playing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
You got to get on the practice field these days to play.
And again, you know what? I mean, he's now the third option, I think, on that team.
He's still a good player to have, though.
Still a good
going
player to
forward.
have, but I think you're going to see a lot of Boykin. I think you're going to obviously see a lot of
Jordy.
Jordan Nelson.
So I'm staying away from Jones. Dwayne
Bo's going to
Bowe-
play.
Dwayne
They
Bowe's
say he's going to
play.
start.
Not sure what that means.
Tough matchup for him, though.
He's going to have Hayden across from him unless they
Yeah.
put him into the slot. He shouldn't get a lot. He's not someone you want to live and
not-
die
like,
with. He has all season.
Especially with a bad quarterback throwing. Like
Right.
Aaron Rodgers was throwing to Jordy Nelson last week, so Nelson had a solid game last week with Hayden covering him. But a guy like Alex Smith, he's not going to be able to get the ball against Joe.
This is a day, if you have to use a chief receiver, you look at Avery, you look at McCluster, more than you look at Bo.
Yeah. Wes Welker, questionable. He's been limited in practice. I'm pretty sure he's going to play and have a pretty good game.
and made one of the most incredible catches you've ever seen. He turned around, the ball was literally over his head,
That
and
was
he
an
caught it and
amazing
felt the
catch.
ball, like, momentum of it brought him back. Amazing catch.
Amazing.
And Giselle Bundchen ripped him for dropping that pass in the air.
Yeah. He hasn't dropped anything with Peyton. I haven't seen him. Have you guys seen any drops? I haven't seen
Absolutely
any
not.
drops.
Nope. Gronkowski, questionable, but
He'll play,
He's
yeah.
going to play, and the guy got 17 targets last week.
Amazing. Brady was just looking for him the whole game.
I think it's going to be a whole lot of Gronkowski for the rest of the season.
And he fell down, like on the one pass. He should have
Yeah.
scored.
Yeah.
He tackled himself at the goal
At the
line.
one, absolutely.
So I
And then
was
the other
shocked
one, he
how
almost
good he
made a
was.
nice one-handed catch. I think he would have gotten in on that one.
Yeah.
Odd thing, Jets defensed him pretty well. He had 17 targets, only 8 catches. He still had 90 yards, and he could have scored twice.
Yeah.
It's just funny how it goes.
And
But
then you have
Brady is
Edelman
looked
and Amendola both playing.
Amendola will play today, and
Yeah, and I think Edelman will too, but I think Edelman's going to see, a sharp reduction in
As long as Amendola's on the field, Edelman's not worth having. That's the only time that he's worth having is when Amendola doesn't
they're the
play.
same player, only Amendola's better.
Right.
Edelman's your punt returner when Amendola's not in.
Exactly. And then a big one here, Jimmy Graham, questionable for today. I think he's going to play, but they're talking about using him sparingly.
Yeah, I mean, far cry from the man that dominated football for the first 5 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Well, it was reported that he has a partially torn plantar fasciitis, whatever that is. I know the Porterhouse said he
I've
had
had
when
it.
he was young.
It's painful. I can tell you that.
It's a trend the last few years, this
Yes.
injury. Gates was the first one that got it.
Yeah.
But,
Big in the NBA, too.
but any kind of tear of anything is bad. So even if it's a small one,
Yeah.
you got to figure he's not playing it. Why would they risk him? They're playing the Bills at home.
Yeah.
I think Ben Watson actually has a good game
It's a
today.
game time decision, Graham is, and you're right.
I'm not using him.
I'm not going to use him either at this point.
Nope,
think,
I picked up a backup tight end last night, and that I'm putting in.
Listen, I have
just,
Jordan Reed, so I can afford to
Yeah,
sit
that
around.
was good.
I don't have Jordan Reed, therefore.
All right, let's take a quick commercial break, and then we'll get into waiver wire pickups. You're going to need some help this week with the buys. We've got 6 teams out. So, Chris, let's take a quick break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes on Code Red.
Hey, dude, it's me, again. You know, Village Music Shop in Mastic. Anyway, you all know my dog, Mr. Big. Yeah. Well, dudes and dudettes, Village Music Shop has been in business for over 37 years, serving musicians with the best products and service around. Oh. They have private lessons on all instruments and in all styles of music in their new state-of-the-art digital teaching studios, or the excellent sales and service of guitars, drums, school band instruments, amps, PAs, as well as sheet music, books, and accessories. Basically, dudes, everything musical. Right, Big? Yeah. Chill out. Village Music has rentals on all instruments, even PA systems for your parties and barbecues. Oh, cool. Dude's Village Music Shop never has a sale on stuff because every day our prices are lower than all the competition. Stores, internet, whatever, guaranteed. Yeah. So come to Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic, phone 1-800-HEY-DUDE. Anyway.
InReview.com.
Oil City Skate Park, Long Island's only indoor skate park. Skateboarding, BMX, inline skating, open 7 days a week. Nearly 150 decks by Baker, Flip, Girl, Chocolate, Real, Plan B, Crimson, Zero, Element, DGK, Bogata, and more. The best in tees, hoodies, wallets, trucks, wheels, bearings, t-shirts, hats, and DVD. New York's largest Santa Cruz dealer. Introducing Jark Skateboards, Europe's best-selling deck. Oil City Skate Park, 3565 Maple Court, Oceanside, New York. Phone 516-442-0706 or go to www.oilcitysk8.com for more info.
InReview.com. Welcome to the future of radio. InReview.
Hey, this is Chuck from the Two Guys and the Chick Show. Check us out Wednesday nights from 7 to 9 Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about stupid news, email bag, and all-around BS. Two Guys and the Chick Show, only on InReview.com, broadcasting to the world.
What are you waiting for? Everyone else is advertising on the internet. Shouldn't you? Tired of small returns on phone books, newspapers, radio ads, TV ads, coupon books, direct mail? Everyone is on the internet every day. Advertise on the internet for as low as $100 a month. Over 250,000 impressions per month on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, InReview.com, and more. Go to the Advertise With Us page on Ravio.com and get started today.
Let's get into some waiver wire pickups. 6 teams on a bye this week. We talked about it already. Let's see if we can help you guys out with a couple of picks off the waiver wire. We talked about Andy Dalton a little bit, as a quarterback that might be out there in some leagues. You know what? Don't like the matchup this week, but
He's hot.
He may be your best, best last choice.
I still think Tannehill could be a guy. I mean, last week he didn't throw for 200 yards, but he got 3 touches and 2 picks.
Yeah.
The O-line is brutal. Guy's been sacked 26 times first 6 games of the season. I hate the Dolphins with a passion, but I think that they have no commitment to the run whatsoever.
None.
So you might as well just take a shot. He's going to put up numbers. He's a guy to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Christian Ponder's back in the picture today. But I'm not using him, but he's back in the picture.
Pryor against the Raiders may not be a brutal matchup either.
Yeah. Big Ben, Big Ben has kind of gone down the listings, but I would like him too today as a possible pickup if you have him.
Yeah. Ryan Matthews might be out there in some leagues.
I know I released him in one.
Yeah,
and then he had 110 yards of the score.
He had a good game last week. Maybe they're going to work him back into that offense.
Who knows? You never know. I mean,
Does
they played a
Jacksonville
really
count as a
bad
team?
Jacksonville team, so you can never tell off of that. Never get your hopes up after a guy plays against Jacksonville.
Yeah.
They always seem a lot better than they really are.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. We talked about Peyton Hillis. You have to be kind of desperate, I think, to use him, but
And six teams are off. You got to
6
assume
teams
there's
are
a ton
off.
of running backs not playing.
And
today.
the guy's got hands. The guy will catch
he'll
balls.
catch a couple of balls, maybe get a couple of goal line opportunities. So, if you have to use them, use them.
Yeah.
We talked about Mike James, Chris Ivory. What's up with the?
I don't like him this week. And the whole thing with
30-something
the,
carries, right?
34 for 102.
Unbelievable.
The whole thing with Ivory is that you don't know if next week they decide that Powell's the guy.
Yeah.
The Jet taking a Jet running back is a scary proposition because
It
Powell
is.
was like second in the AFC in rushing through the first 5 games.
Yeah.
And then he barely sees
Falling
it,
off
gets
the
a
map.
then he barely gets a carry. He's pretty good too. So
Yeah.
you don't know how they're going to go.
And, we talked about the DeMarco Murray, Joseph Randall situation. What's the latest on Murray?
Murray was game time decision still, pregame warm-up, so we'll see what happens. But hopefully you have Randall as your handcuff if you do have Murray, so you
Yeah.
play with. Randall actually looked really good last week. I was surprised.
Yeah, he looked okay.
He can move, you know.
Okay. A couple of wide receivers to throw out there. We talked about a couple of these guys last week. Harry Douglas.
We talked about him 2 weeks ago during the
He was a
bye.
must-add 2 weeks ago.
6 for 149 and a score last week.
Yeah. Jared Boykin, big
He's
game
gonna-
last week.
He's going to get.
You
he's
always,
gonna get
just a lesson learned with that, any player that plays with Rodgers, you have to take a chance on him.
Yeah.
You know, all these guys come out of nowhere, and Rodgers, as long as Rodgers is the quarterback, every guy's worth owning on that team.
Yeah, and here's another guy, Terrence Williams. If he's still out there, grab him. The situation with him is he's still, the third option in that offense, but they throw the ball a lot. He's very involved in the in the game plan. So I'm liking Williams. And another guy to jump on if you're trying to stay a step ahead of people is Percy Harvin.
Yeah, we spoke about that last week.
Yeah, I mean Percy Harvin is going to be back.
Probably next week. he'll be
Probably
back.
next week. I
Not
don't
this
think
week.
today.
He's not playing this week.
I'm thinking next week he'll be back and you can land yourself a top flight receiver.
He could be a stud.
Yeah.
You got what's his name? I'm forgetting now. On
Baldwin, Rice.
Yeah.
who has no speed. You
Oh,
got
Baldwin has not much.
Baldwin is the third receiver anyway.
He's a slot guy.
And then you got Golden Tate, slow.
Yeah.
So this is a guy that Wilson's going to feature because this guy can move.
No question.
So I see a lot of targets coming his
He
way.
also gets carries. They also give him the ball out of the backfield a little bit, and he can also throw it.
You do it all.
And I'm just saying, Carroll's a college coach.
Yeah.
Don't put it past that a gimmick here and a gimmick there
No
will
question.
work.
As long as he's even like 3/4 of what he used to be, he's a guy that could be a stud for you.
In a
question.
keeper league,
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
able to keep that guy for next year and get him on the cheap, it might be something that's worth something for
Yeah.
you.
A couple of tight ends. We talked about Jordan Reed a lot. Ben Watson we mentioned as a.
As long as Graham's not playing, he should get a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And the other guy is Bostic in Green Bay.
Got to give him a look.
You got to give him a look because it just goes to your point.
Right.
You don't know how Rodgers is going to use him.
Everybody's trash is somebody else's treasure, And so
Yeah.
you got to take a chance on these guys. If you have no backup tight end, just throw it out there, and you never know what can happen.
Another potential sleeper, Fasano. Smith checks down, throws the tight ends. Made McGrath look like he was a solid pick for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then he just
And then
well,
he
got
disappeared.
hurt,
Because,
too.
Fasano also would have taken his spot.
Yeah.
And Fasano could be a guy that starts seeing some targets and some scores.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Tight end wise,
Not just overall.
I'm trying to think. Not really.
I mean, Durham as the opposite of Megatron
Yeah.
in Detroit.
Getting targets.
He'll start getting some more targets. I mean, the Jets, it's impossible, but if Curley's still out there, he seems
Yeah,
to be
he's
the
playing.
guy they throw the ball to.
That's
Yeah.
a nice one.
And I think he is out there in a lot of leagues that I've seen.
They got that kid on Cincinnati that's basically taken over the second of Sanu is Jones, Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones, who
and he
looks
looks
good.
So he's a possible guy you want to add as a fifth receiver.
And the other guy that's still out there, believe it or not, is Cumberland.
Tight end.
I'm sorry?
The tight end from the
Yeah.
Jets. That
right.
come on.
He's a guy that I see out there that, you may want to take a flyer on in a bye week.
And just as Rex talked about, he's the stud tight end. He hasn't had a good game since, right? He hasn't done much, non-factor.
He had a nice drop. They could have sealed the game last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, studs, duds, and sleepers from last week. I'm telling you, man, I am the kiss of death. Let me start with the one good pick I made last week in my studs. My stud quarterback last week was Phillip Rivers. Wound up going 22 for 26, 285 yards, 1 touchdown. Pretty good game out of Rivers.
Solid.
It's solid.
You want 2 touchdowns, but
Yeah, 1 touchdown is the only thing that hurts me. You don't get any bonus points.
When you
for
see
getting
the rest of
300.
my studs,
you'll be loving that
you'll
one.
be loving that pick.
I mean, I wasn't here last week, but I know we had a lot of similar ones. And the guys I looked to last week were Luck and Newton, and Luck had a monster day. 3 touchdowns, 228, and then he rushed for 1. Newton was like 15 for 17. I mean, he didn't have any incompletions, but only 206. and a score, so he didn't have a huge day.
Yeah, I had luck as well, and we talked about Romo maybe having a big
And
day.
Romo, he didn't.
And what we thought was going to be a shootout,
Yeah.
17-3 final.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that with
Yeah,
those
that was surprising.
defenses?
All right, my stud. Do I have to even say this?
Well, he didn't play, so you're not really good.
You're
making
not
the
My
penalty.
stud last week, my running back was Brandon Jacobs.
We'll give you Michael Cox.
He
for the
didn't
week.
play.
He bleeds blue. There's nothing we can do
I
about
was the
it.
guy with the death threats. That was me. Who'd you have?
Running back last week, I had Ray Rice and Martin. Neither one really did a ton. I didn't really have a stud day at the running back position last week.
And then, of course, Porterhouse wasn't here last week. We kind of just generalized. We did like 2 or 3 guys. Admiral kind of went with his guy. So we get a little more credit than Admiral because we're using 2 guys.
Yep.
But I had Alfred Morris, who should have had a great game, and then we didn't talk about pickups. Roy Halou
Had 3
gets 3
scores.
touchdowns.
Yeah.
And again, when this Shanahan, he drives you crazy with these running backs. He did feature Morris pretty much last year,
But
which
it's
was
been
a
the
stunt.
case with him.
No, and he had 19 carries. It wasn't like they didn't give him
No,
the
he-
ball. It just
He
he
was
didn't
getting-
get in the end
yeah,
zone.
he
They
was
kept
getting
giving the ball
5
to
yards a
Halou.
carry.
Yeah, but that's been the case with Shanahan forever.
You can never figure it out. You figure he has a monster game, and what do you know? Roy Halou has a monster game.
Yeah.
And I liked Lamar Miller as well. I thought it was going to be his breakout game. Same thing. No carries, 10 carries. They don't feature anybody at running back.
Philbin
I
does
don't know
not
what's
run
going
the
on.
ball.
He doesn't.
He just doesn't.
Yeah. I picked Reggie Wayne last week as my wide receiver and probably caused him to have a career injury.
Mike's getting death threats from Wayne now.
He did have 5 catches at 50 yards before he blew out his leg. So
Yeah, we had. I know I mentioned Deshaun Jackson, 3 for 21. You couldn't. I would have never
Would've never
thought
thought
that
that,
was
yeah.
going to happen.
Especially when he had a good game against Tampa, against Revis. I mean, even though they were playing zone, still had a good game.
Absolutely, did not expect that. Welker, 7 for 96. I mean, again, no touchdowns. The only guy that didn't score, so it makes it a bad game.
Yeah.
Point per reception, he's okay, but
Okay.
you expect 16 points out of Welker. It's not like
I,
he give you
I-
anything
yeah,
special.
I had 2 guys listed. I had Eric Decker, who had a great game.
Yes, he did.
And I just the same thing with a couple weeks ago with Green Bay, where I said James Jones is going to have a big day. You just know that Rodgers and Manning spread the wealth enough where you can take a chance on one of the other guys being the stud for the week.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Demaryius Thomas this week.
right.
You
They're
know?
gonna flip it around
But,
all over
you
the
know,
place.
with Green Bay and with Denver, they're so good that you mix it up. And I had Antonio Brown listed as well, who had a mediocre 6 for 50 game. So.
All right, my tight end was Jason Witten, 4 catches, 48 yards. Again, surprising that, there wasn't more offense in that game, and
You would have figured he had a 10-catch,
Yeah.
100-yard game, but
yeah,
I don't know. They really didn't. They were just managing the clock. It
Yeah.
seemed both teams.
No, absolutely. I liked Witten. I like Julius Thomas. 5 for 41. He got in the end zone. Is the only thing that saves you on that.
yeah.
Anytime he
wasn't much
scores,
more-
is a
yeah,
good week.
really wasn't.
I
that
had
good.
Jermichael Finley as
Finley
my
was the other guy,
stud,
yep.
only because we
We
thought
talked about it. We
Yeah.
both liked him.
thought that Nelson would be locked on Hayden.
Yeah.
And they would run the ball more, which they did.
It made sense until
you know,
he
and he got hurt. But he
He
had a
got
good
hurt.
game before that happened.
Yeah.
So.
All right, let's get into duds. I did a little better with my dud picks. I had Tom Brady last week. Not a good game for Brady, 228 yards passing, no touchdowns.
Second
One-
time in 3 weeks.
one
Nailed that one.
interception.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
been awful.
Yeah.
That was a good call.
How about you?
I had Kaepernick, 189 yards, no scores, 68 yards rushing with a score. And I had Rivers in there to go opposite you, and he had 285 and a score. Neither one killed it. Each one had 1 touchdown, but, if you're going to win your fantasy game, your quarterback has to give you at least 2 scores every week.
Yeah.
With 1 score, it's not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have my list on my duds, so you guys can pass me.
Okay. My my running back last week was Reggie Bush. He had an okay game, 20 carries, 50 yards, no touchdowns, 3 receptions, 44 yards. He probably got you about 12 fantasy points.
You nailed it. I mean, that's a
Not-
dud day
that's
for a
not a
top
good day
10
for
running
him.
Yeah,
back.
it's not a good day.
Yeah.
So I had Arian Foster, who got hurt, made me look really good.
Yeah.
4 for 11. I also had Alfred Morris, went opposite you on that. 95 yards, but no score, so he gives you 9.5 points. Not a,
No, not a stud.
not a stud day.
My receiver, Dwayne Bowe, 5 catches, 66 yards, no touchdowns.
I had Bolden, 5 for 74 with no scores, and I liked Andre Johnson, 4 for 89 with no scores. Neither one of them give you a ton. I think I'm all right there.
Yeah. My tight end, Dallas Clark, he did score, but 3 catches, 9 yards. Ouch.
Yeah.
Not a good game.
And he looks horrible in number 87.
Doesn't
Really
look
bad.
right. Give him
You know,
44 back.
He really does look bad.
I had Cook and Vernon Davis. Neither one did much. I mean, Vernon 4 for 62, Cook 4 for 33.
So those are good calls.
I pretty much pick Cook every week because he
Yeah,
sucks.
I know.
So actually, I got to stop that. It's almost like cheating, taking the Rams
It's like
starting tight
taking
end.
Fleener as your sleeper.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop doing that. I'm not taking him this week. They have a bye.
All right, my sleepers last week, Jay Cutler, hurt.
Who'd you have for your sleeper?
I had Tannehill.
Okay, we both
He
liked
had-
Tannehill
he
last
had a
week.
pretty good game.
Yeah.
And I threw out Gino.
And Gino, you nailed it.
233 with a score, and he
Yeah.
rushed for another one. He
Yeah.
looked good last week.
Loves to get his Jets in there, and
I did.
And when he does, he's usually right.
Yeah.
He had Cumberland at one time.
Yeah.
I don't like
pretty
Gino
good.
this week, I'll tell you that much.
All right, my running back sleeper, Bernard, not much of a day, 27 rushing yards, 5 receptions, and 32 yards through the air.
Yeah, you figure he would get more action than that, but Ellis again didn't get any either, so it was just an aerial show for.
Yeah.
I
Commander?
had Joseph Randall. I liked him based on that, he was going to be getting all the majority of the carries. Of course, they vultured. Dunbar comes in. No, the other guy,
I know you're talking about
Philip.
Mike.
I forget his name.
I know you're talking about.
But he comes in and gets the touchdown.
Gets you a
2
touchdown.
carries, 1 yard, and a
And a score.
touchdown. And then Randall had like 80 or 90 yards total, and he looked pretty good.
No, absolutely. I know I had Lacey out there who had a solid day, and I had D'Angelo Williams who got in the end zone. So the two of them, they were okay.
Yeah, yeah. My receiver last week, Ruben Randall, just 3 catches, 40 yards, but he did score.
Yep.
Yeah, and going forward, this
like
week is
him.
the trade deadline. You have to assume that the Giants are going to trade Nicks
Yeah.
to anybody
Yeah.
for whatever they can get. So
Well, there's a
Randall
market
is
out there for Knicks.
Yeah.
No question that there's
I mean,
a market
with all
out
the
there.
injuries.
Can you say Indianapolis Colts?
Can you say Green Bay Packers? Can you say, I mean, there are
I would
plenty of
never.
places.
I would
New
never
England.
trade a guy within my conference. I got to be honest. That
New
would freak
England?
me out.
Yeah.
New
New
England
England, you
wants him.
never know.
I never give anyone to New England because I hate them.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
But you have to think he's going to get traded. If they don't trade it, the Giants are idiots. Get anything
No.
you can for the
If
guy.
you get a third-round pick for him, you take it. Fourth-round pick.
Yeah.
I had Harry Douglas, who had a monster day, 7 for 149
Good
to
call.
score.
Good call.
And my other half was Stephen Hill, who had 1 catch of 17 yards, and his touchdown was called back on an offensive. What? You can't do that, Mike? You can't do that and then catch it?
And you
Michael
see a
Irvin
lot
made
of
a
that,
living.
Yeah, he did make a living on it, but he didn't. He
did.
couldn't move. That was the problem. He didn't have speed, so he would get away with it.
Right.
But I had like Dunham with the Lions and Boykins listed as my sleepers. So Boykins had a good day, but Dunham was kind of.
He hasn't put up the numbers you'd expect. I expect
yeah.
more from him.
Yeah.
And my sleeper, who got hurt at tight end this week, fellas.
Jermichael Finley. The fact that we gave you credit to use him as a sleep is wrong.
That's
Anyway,
That's
But he
true.
scored. So.
he scored.
Yeah, listen, he had a decent day. 5 catches, 72 yards, and a touchdown before he got hurt.
Yeah,
I
and that was
like-
in the third quarter. Too.
I like Delaney Walker. Got a touchdown, 3 for 52 and a score. Just figured he was playing against the Niners. Wanted to
That's a
show him
nice,
what he was
that's
missing.
a nice sleeper. I had Jordan Reed, who
He was a monster.
no longer is a sleeper.
No.
So that'll be the last week we use him.
Now he's a
there.
legit monster.
Yeah. All right, let's get into this week and see if we can help you guys out a little bit. This week, my stud quarterback, RG3 against Denver. You know what? This guy is going to make plays today. I don't know if it's going to be running. I don't know if it's going to be throwing. It's going to probably be a shootout. But I like Griffin today.
I like Romo today. I think Romo's going to turn it back around. I think that, against that Detroit secondary, they'll just be throwing all day.
Yeah.
Going back on RG3, if you remember the last year, the first 6 games for Adrian Peterson, he didn't go off to a great start, and then he took off.
Yeah.
So maybe the same thing's happening with RG3. He's
I think it
moving
is.
better.
He looked good.
And he
last
looked.
week.
That was his best game of the year last week, no
Yeah.
doubt. I like Romo as well, but I'll have Kaepernick in the wind now. So, but he can run, so I'll still stick with Kaepernick. as my-
Another guy to look at, Rodgers tonight against Minnesota's very bad secondary as well.
Yeah.
He's a
I think
stud
even
every
without receivers, I mean, he's a stud quarterback. I mean, he's just the kind of guy that I think will have a huge day.
All right, my running back, Frank Gore. I'm liking this pick even more
better,
now.
yeah.
You know,
Unless the
against
wind blows him over.
Jaguars. Well, listen, that could happen. He's going to put up big numbers, I think. Easily 100 total yards, a touchdown, maybe 2. I like Gore this
Good
week.
matchup.
Le'Veon Bell. I think the Steelers will run a lot in Oakland, and I think Le'Veon Bell will be the guy. Le'Veon Bell, if you want to say it right, will be the guy.
I got Marshawn Lynch against the Rams Monday night.
I like that.
He's had a steady year, not as good as your man crush there, Jamal
Jamal
Charles,
Charles, but
but
he's
he's
been
had a
real
good
good.
year, and I like him to run wild against the Rams Monday night.
Yeah. My wide receiver this week, we've been talking about this guy a lot, but Jared Boykin, you know, I like him a lot, but I love him this week against the Vikings and that pathetic defense. You know, I think he's going to have another big day.
Nice.
Pierre Garcon.
Oh, I hope so.
I think he has a very nice day today. I think that Reed has a big day. I think that they might score 31 and lose by 20. I mean, that's how bad it'll be.
I absolutely agree.
But I think that they'll put up points.
I have, believe it or not, Marcus Colston. I have him getting out of the Crypt Keeper's outfit and getting out there and having a big day today.
He should. He should.
I'm not going to get too much into this because we've talked about him a lot, but my tight end stud this week is Jordan Reed.
I mean, I'll go to Witten. I mean, but you know, I just feel like there's a bounce back and it has to be there.
I got Heath Miller, who last time they played the Raiders scored 2 touchdowns, so I think he'll have a nice day today.
You remember that one, do you?
Yeah, I do remember that vividly.
All right, let's get into our duds. You know, we talked about Dalton. You know, we suggest him as a viable pickup. I don't like him this week against the Jets. I mean, the guy's been incredible the last 2 weeks. Over 700 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. Very impressive, but that came against Buffalo and Detroit. I think Cincinnati's going to win the game. I'm sorry.
No, I
Whereas-
agree with you. I'd love to say I disagree, but I don't.
Cincinnati's tough at home.
I think they're going to win the game, but I think he's going to come back down to earth a little bit this week. You know, this is a Jets defense that held Brady to 228 yards last week.
Absolutely.
So I'm not loving Dalton this week.
To be honest with you, when you go through it, there's 2 teams that always stand out to me at home that are just so much better than the road. One is Cincinnati, one is Arizona. And I like Matt Ryan to have a really bad day today. I think that the Cardinals will bother him a lot today.
I like that too.
And I think that, listen, you know, he lost his 2 best weapons. It's not hard to pick on the guy.
Yeah.
But, you know, last week he still threw very well.
Had a good
And they
game.
moved the ball all over the place
Yeah.
against what's supposed to be the strength of the Buccaneer team, the defense, which just isn't showing. So I'm going to say Ryan has a tough day today.
Yeah, I'm going to go with, I like Ryan as a dud too. I like Geno Smith as a dud.
Yeah,
Going
he's
up
a
in
dud.
Cincinnati. I don't know if he even playing him anyway, but, you know, he has played better. And that one running touchdown, I was stunned. I'm like,
Yeah.
where was that all the
Yeah.
whole last
Yeah.
That wasn't even there at West Virginia.
Yeah, right, you're right. So we'll go with Geno as a dud.
All right, my dud running back. I'm very happy to have this guy back, but I'm not excited about his prospects this week. Steven Jackson against the Cardinals. You know, the guy missed 4 straight games. I don't think, you know, they may ease him back in. He may be a little bit rusty.
Plus Rodgers is playing well.
Yeah,
It's not like they're just going to put Rodgers on the bench.
you know, it's going against a tough defense. I'm not using him unless I have to.
I agree with that. That's a good call.
I'm going to go with Ivory. I think that last week's game was fantastic for him. I think he'll have tough sledding against the Bengals, and I think a lot of people are picking him up and putting him in their roster this week. And I don't expect much out of Ivory this week.
I'm going to go with Alfred Morris as my dud. Just because Halou is more involved, I don't trust this scenario anymore.
No,
you know?
you can't.
And so I don't like him this week. And
Yeah.
plus they're going to be behind. He's not a guy that catches passes
Nope.
anyway. So.
No. My wide receiver, I'm going to go against what I told you earlier today. We were talking about Bo or Blackman. My dud this week is Blackman, even more so now, you know, with the prospect of the weather. You know, again, we're talking 70-mile-an-hour winds, rain, ugly. So that's my dud.
I'm going to go. I had Shorts down, but now it seems unfair to go with both Jacksonville receivers. So I'll take Gordon on Cleveland. I think that he'll have a tough day today, tough sledding against the Chief D.
And I got Amendola. I'm assuming he's playing.
He's
So
supposed
if he
to.
plays, I'll say he's a dud because Brady's been terrible.
All right, my dud tight end, if you're still using him and you may be considering it in this bye week, but Jared Cook.
He's like the whipping boy of this
Let me
dud
tell you.
show.
Let me tell you about Jared Cook.
Things are not getting any better for this guy, and you know, he's got Clemens throwing to him. He's going against the Seattle defense.
Yeah, it's not a good situation.
Unless you get something in some garbage time, which I don't see happening, he's useless to me.
Yeah, I like that.
No, I agree with you. I will go with Kyle Rudolph having a tough game tonight against the Packers. I think the Packers have no fear of the receivers. I mean, Jennings might have a decent day just because he's angry about being let go. So I figure if anybody's going to catch the balls, it'll be Jennings tonight, and Rudolph will be forgotten.
I have Jordan Cameron as my dud. He's got a tough matchup. He's got a new quarterback that stinks in Campbell.
Yes, he does.
You know, so sometimes though, I remember Porterhouse mentioned it a couple weeks ago. These new quarterbacks come in and they just key on their tight end or dump it to the running back. They don't even look down the field.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility, but I'll still say it's a bad game. He actually was having a horrible game last week until garbage time.
He emerged
at
at
the
the
end,
end.
and he scored and whatever. But
Yeah.
I'll go with him. I just have a couple updates. Amendola is playing.
Okay.
Dwayne Bowe is playing. Jimmy Graham is playing.
He's playing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's big news.
That is
I'm
big
surprised
news.
by that, actually.
I still may sit him.
Yeah.
I
But
still-
he's playing.
I
so.
still
He's
may sit
playing. Hard to sit Jimmy
him.
Graham.
It's hard to sit
Yeah.
Jimmy Graham.
All it takes is one jump ball in the corner of an end zone, and he
Yeah.
outscores most of the
So
tight
you have
ends
your
in this
work
league
cut
on a
out for you
weekly
today.
basis.
Who
What?
are you going to play?
Yeah.
Who'd you pick up, by the way?
I'm blanking right now. I released Fleener. Who did I pick up last night? I picked up another tight end. Give me a second. It'll come to me.
all right, but
Let's get into sleepers really quick. He's back. Michael Vick against the Giants. I like him this week.
nice.
Okay, I have Tannehill down again. I also put down Alex Smith as a potential guy that could have a decent day against the rest of the Cleveland defense.
Okay. I'm going to go with Rudolph, who has not had a great year. Ponder is back, which is kind of hurts my cause because Ponder does throw it to him, but I like him as a dud.
Okay?
Oh, we're on
Well,
quarterback.
sleeper
We're on sleeper
quarterbacks.
quarterbacks, but I thought you were going. I thought you were going to tell me Ponder.
Do I even have a dud quarterback? Oh, we're on sleeper
We're on sleeper.
We're on sleeper
quarterbacks.
quarterback. I had a Big Ben.
Okay, that's a good
He's
pick.
your guy.
All right, I'm not sure if this guy
Darryl
qualifies.
killing me.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this guy qualifies as a sleeper anymore. But my running back is Noshan Moreno. Love him this week. Love him this week against one of the worst pass rushing defenses in the league. He's going up against the pathetic Redskins defense. I think he's going to get a lot of touches, probably a touchdown or two.
But is he really considered a sleeper?
Yes.
He is.
He is in the world of the Admiral.
A top 5 running back is the sleeper. Okay.
You gotta love the way he plays this game. I have Lamar Miller, and it's a dangerous pick because they may not go to him. But if they watched the tape last week, you could run on the Patriots. There's no Wilfork. There's no Mayo.
Yeah.
If they have a brain in their heads in Miami, they will run the ball a little
And
bit.
I think they
and
will.
give a
and
chance to
I
Lamar
think
Miller.
that's a good pick. I think that's a good
And
pick.
I have Ellington listed in the
He was
Cardinals.
my backup, yeah.
Mendenhall's not playing.
Nope.
And this guy's, I like him. I always liked him. We talked about him a few weeks back as a pickup.
He's
and now
quick.
he's starting. I like him today, and I also like Hillis as a
Yep, I have them both
fill-in, too.
listed too. I like them both. I mean, Ellington to me is quick and he catches the ball out of the backfield too.
Yeah. Another guy that I'm not sure is a sleeper anymore, and we've talked about him a lot, but my wide receiver this week is Terrence Williams. Again, he's becoming a bigger part of that offense, going against a suspect Detroit Lions secondary, so I look for him to have a pretty good game.
I got Donnie Avery having a day again against the rest of the Brown secondary. They have Hayden and then the rest of the guys.
Yeah.
And Hayden will do a good job on Bow, and then the rest of the guys, I think Avery will find himself a few openings today.
I could throw out Calvin Johnson because the Admiral's using top 5 guys, but I'm going to go with Kenny Stills on the Saints. I was assuming that Graham wasn't playing when I did this, but I still like him. He scored last time against New England, and he had the bye week last week, so I'll go with him.
How many snaps do you really think Graham's going to play with that foot?
I don't know, but I did get another update. DeMarco Murray's not playing.
He's out.
Sorry.
So
So get Randall in
Randall's
there.
a player today.
All right, my tight end, this is more sleeper-like, so I apologize for the previous picks, but Brandon Bostic, Packers against the Browns, we all know what's going on with the injuries in Green Bay.
Packers Vikings, right?
You know what, the matchup is decent. You're rolling the dice a little bit because you don't know how involved he's going to be in the offense, but, as a sleeper,
Worth the
Bostic,
flyer.
Yeah, worth the
They have
flyer.
Quarles too, so you got to see if he plays the snaps.
I think Bostic's going to be the guy that gets most of the catches, but we'll see.
I went with Scott Chandler. I went with the opposite tight end in that New Orleans-Buffalo game. I think the big target, and I think Thaddeus Lewis will use him in the middle of the field.
Okay.
And I had actually had Kyle Rudolph as my sleeper, not my dud, when I lost my stuff there. So I have Kyle Rudolph as my sleeper with Ponder back in the lineup.
Okay. All right, let's.
And Chandler was the guy I picked up, by the way.
Oh, Chandler. Okay,
Chandler
there
was the
you
guy I
go.
picked up.
Well, now you can use
I
Graham.
could not remember who I released Fleener for us for Chandler.
You can use Graham now.
We're gonna wrap up the show and go through some sits and starts. Before we do that, though, I want to just mention our host head-to-head segment.
Commander pulls away
Well,
last
it
week.
hasn't been getting a lot of attention on the show because we frankly
We
just
tried to
haven't
cram
had
it in
time.
there at the end.
But this week the Commander made a big move, 129 points to take his 2 games.
It was a close week, though.
Yeah, it was a close
Could've
week.
gone either
Porterhouse 127. I was 117. So the updated standings are Porterhouse 9-5, the Admiral 7-7, and the Commander making his move at 6-8.
And it was funny too. I don't know what the score is at that point, and I had Blair Walsh on Monday night, and he gets 1. I go, I probably lost both this week, but I wound up winning.
All right, let's get into some sit starts. I talked about Vic already. I like him this week. The Giants' defense has allowed 5 quarterbacks to get at least 20 fantasy points this season. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I like Vic this week. My quarterback sit of the week is Geno Smith. The Bengals' defense has done a good job. Roethlisberger, Rodgers, Brady have had a combined 32 fantasy points. If they can't get it going on them,
And they were all at home.
yeah,
so.
Geno Smith is not going to get the job done today.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the Cincinnati defense that played in Detroit last week. This is
Right.
the Bengals at home, and that front four will probably put them down at least 5 times.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think Matt Ryan's a sit this week. I think he's it's hard to sit a guy that good, but if you have a viable backup, I think you have to look at it. I think he's definitely someone that's, up in the air on it. A guy that you could see playing a little bit and giving them a little trouble today as a bit of a sleeper is a Thaddeus Lewis if you had to.
Yeah.
I think he could run around and
Garbage
bother.
time.
I think he could bother the Saints a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think
Garbage time, yeah.
Emergency situation. with
Emergency,
that, yeah.
but not someone that you.
There's a lot of bad quarterbacks starting today with Campbell. Ponder's
God.
back. It's ugly.
It's ugly.
Yeah.
There was a Rodney Harrison accusing Freeman of faking the concussions.
There's another guy. How awful was Freeman Monday night? And this is the thing that I don't get. They weren't behind 20-something points, and they just stopped running the football. He had 11, 12 carries?
The best player on your field is on your team.
And you
Give
feature
him the
Freeman.
ball.
Well, I guess because they stink. They say, you know what, we're going to see what Freeman has, and they just let him play. And then he had this phantom concussion
Yeah.
all of a sudden because he was supposed to be the starter this week, and I guess there was an uproar or whatever. So now all of a sudden
Ponder is now the starter. Ponder led him to the playoffs last year. It wasn't good,
Yeah.
but he
He
wins.
doesn't. Usually he doesn't. He's just manages the game. They give it to Peterson. Rudolph had a nice year with him last year. So you got to figure the Vikings will play better tonight.
Yeah, I thought Freeman would be a major upgrade for them. He looked awful against a very below-average Giant defense.
He's just
Yes.
an inaccurate player. You can't play in this league that inaccurate.
Right.
Mark Sanchez.
Yeah. Please.
I'm sorry.
All right.
He'll be playing next year.
Couple of-
Somebody will have him. He'll
Yeah,
be starting
that's
a
it.
week like this.
No.
And you know what? And
Sanchez
somebody's
will
going to be
back in
excited
the league
about it.
next year. You're right.
Probably as a backup. All right, a couple of running backs to talk about. McFadden back this week, and I like him. They're talking about him looking explosive in practice this week. Which is it's a pretty decent matchup. Against the Steelers defense. I think he's definitely going to. I think we're about to see the better part or the best part of McFadden's season. So if you have him this week, you're probably going to need him. Use him.
He's already had his injury for the year too, so you figure maybe stay healthy the rest of the year.
I like Le'Veon Bell, and I'll stick with that. Because of the weather, Maurice Jones-Drew might be a little slippery for people today.
Nice.
I'm not saying that he's going to have a great game, but I'm just saying if in a desperation point, if it's him or someone that's going to be a backup or really just a pass-catching guy out of the backfield, never going to get any touches, you might want to consider it because it might be tough sledding for the defense to cut with him a little bit. He's small. He's tough to bring down sometimes. He runs pretty hard. Who knows? And he's trying to get traded.
Yeah.
He's trying desperately to get out of Jacksonville, and this is the week he has to do it.
No question. Guy to sit this week, we talked about C.J. Spiller. Obviously now we know DeMarco Murray is out. A couple of wide receivers to talk about. Marcus Colston.
I think he's going to emerge. I agree with the commander on this one.
I mean, if he doesn't have a good week this week, he's worthless.
Yeah, he's
you know,
due.
when do you just bait, just ship these guys out?
Yeah, he's due. I mean, he's going up against that Bills defense. If this is going to be, if there is going to be a time, it's probably going to be this week.
To me, he's the Ryan Matthews of receivers at this point. Like, you
So
dropped him in one of your teams.
Yeah.
To me, he's not even worth owning if he has a bad game this week.
Yeah.
No, he's just
Even with Breeze as your quarterback, which
Yeah.
is shocking.
Yeah.
But he's got to have a good game today.
Guy you want to sit this week, we talked about Julian Edelman. When Amendola's on the field and Gronkowski's on the field, Edelman's going to disappear, I think. So, probably not a good start for you unless you absolutely have to use him.
What do you think of the Falcons as far as using Douglas this week and Gonzalez and guys like that? You like any of those guys this week?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Use them?
Yeah, I would use him.
I would use Douglas. I think he's going to get catches. I don't know if he's going to get in the end zone.
Yeah.
Gonzalez might get into the end zone. But he's the guy that they're going to double team off the line.
Exactly.
Yeah, when you were talking about receivers, I just had Harry Douglas in my head, and I just said, what do
Yeah.
you think of that? I don't know.
Tight end to definitely start this week, even though he's a little banged up, is Jordan Reed. He's got the hip pointer, but he's going to play.
He practiced Friday, so he should be
Yeah,
all right.
going up against the Broncos. The Broncos have allowed a tight end to score in 2 of the last 3 games. I think the guy stays hot.
I like that.
I think Fasano's a guy, if you're low on tight ends, that you might look at this week.
Fasano, you love Fasano. I think you
do.
mentioned him a couple of weeks ago, too.
I like him. I think that because of the check down mentality of Alex Smith, I think he's viable in any way. He got tackled at the 1 last week.
Yeah.
I mean, if he just could run a pattern a little deeper, he might have scored.
Going back, I'm curious to see what happens with the Redskins with the running back situation. Is it Halou this week?
I think it's Morris, but
I think it's Morris, but you're
to
right.
start the game, I think by the second quarter it's Halou.
Yeah.
So I have a dilemma. I have both of those guys on one of my teams. So I have Halou in there right now because of the bye weeks and stuff.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing with the Skins, and because of this game, because you don't know how Denver's going to react to that loss.
Yeah. Can you play them both? Use one as a flex or?
I usually never do something like that,
If Denver comes out, 28-7 in the first
Yeah,
quarter,
it's
you won't
Halou.
see Alfred Morris
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, tight end to sit this week. We talked about Timothy Wright last week, and we liked him. He was a big disappointment. Just 2 catches, 15 yards, only targeted 3 times. In a week where you probably need a tight end, avoid Wright if you can, but you may have to use him.
Well,
I
he
mean,
played
there's-
already, so.
Oh, that's right.
He was,
It's not someone you really have to worry about too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
So
He did
today,
score
if you-
garbage time, right?
He got that late
Yes,
touchdown.
yes.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Got that late touchdown. Those feisty Bucks.
I tell you, Carolina is looking really good right now. And I see them making the playoffs at this
I do
point.
too. I
The
think that-
defense is good.
Yeah.
Got a good running game. Now they got Stewart. Stewart's a possible pickup, by the way, guys. Not a great pickup, but D'Angelo Williams got hurt in the game. So if he's not playing, you make sure you have Stewart.
Now, Stewart's a guy that has always found a way to split time with D'Angelo Williams, even when they were both doing well. Cam Newton's accurate as anything right now. He's looking like he did the last 3 or 4 games of last season.
Yeah.
I drafted him. I overdrafted him. I took him he was like the 4th or 5th quarterback taken, and I was killing myself. But now the last couple of weeks, he's playing pretty
But he
well.
did the same thing last year, though. He got off to a really bad start, and then he was red hot at the end.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one. Rashard Mendenhall is probably not playing today. They're going to start Andre Ellington.
That's why I like
Yep,
him as a sleeper.
that's why we like Ellington.
Yeah, that might be a pickup this week.
And I like the Ben Watson pickup you talked about earlier.
Yes,
He's the
yes.
guy.
But with Graham playing, I don't know now.
I'm just saying, do you think Graham's going to play every week?
I don't
The
even know why
buy is
they're
behind
playing.
him. You have to handcuff him. If you have Graham,
Yeah.
handcuff him with Watson.
Yeah.
Because Breeze is another guy, unlike Brady, and I'm not trying to kill Tom Brady, but Breeze and Rodgers are guys that throw to anybody that's coming out there. They don't kill them, and they just keep throwing it to them. You guys you never heard of. They walk off the street. They throw it at him 4 times.
Yeah.
Brady will throw at a guy, drops the ball. He might go away from him for a little bit.
Yeah.
These guys don't
Especially
do that
Dobson.
as much. Yeah, I mean, he's been awful. I mean,
drops too many.
the Pats have the most drops in the league. I mean, it's not Brady's fault that
No.
he's not having a great year, but he seems to be much more agitated, these guys. Rodgers and Breeze throw him to whoever comes
Yeah.
in. Meacham signed a big contract in San Diego, was a bust, comes back, catches a touchdown his first game.
Yeah.
I mean, Breeze don't care. He just airs it out all over the
Yeah, he
place.
does. All right. I think that's a wrap.
Good job, guys.
All right, listen, thanks to Christine helping us out in the booth as always. And for Fantasy Football Code Red, this is the Admiral, the Commander, Porterhouse signing off. Enjoy week 8, and we'll be back next week on Fantasy Football Code Red.